All right, hello. Hi.
Hi, Walter. How are you?
Good. How's your Monday morning going so far?
It's good. It's a good Monday morning so far. Had my cup
Good.
of coffee, enjoying the rain.
Oh
It's
yeah,
good.
I love the fact that it's raining. I love that smell.
Yes.
I love the fact that you're getting all that dust out of the air. And actually, as a result, I'm starting to feel my allergies again. It's funny. It's like wind in the evening, rain. It seems like sunshine. Everything gives me allergies. So I'm not sure why,
I think my fiance would probably agree with you on that one.
but
But yeah, so we're going to do some gin tasting today. Is that right?
yes, that is correct. We're going to be tasting Gin 209, one of those classic West Coast gins, really one of the first of the onslaught of new gins coming out of America and California, of course. Located in San Francisco, Pier
Mhm.
50. So this is truly a local brand, and it's been around actually since 1870 is when it's first well, the history kind of started. It wasn't created until a few years later, but Gin 209 refers to, well, do you know what it refers to? Let me
I
ask
don't know. I'd love to hear a little bit about
you.
that.
So 209, obviously a number, right? So that is the license that was originally given to William Scheffler, who was a distiller at heart. He is really the founder of this brand,
Oh,
and
cool.
he started a distillery in Napa. He bought the plans to this kind of new still. I'm not sure exactly what type of still it was, but he bought these plans in New York, and eventually made his way out to the West Coast, probably to seek his fortune, just like we all do when we come out to California.
Got to get that gold.
It's that gold rush mentality, right?
Yeah.
We still feel it here in California. If you're not from California, it's still alive. And
Yeah.
I think this whole Corona thing is going to just inspire more people to be more creative and
I
go after their
agree.
dreams. So that was William Scheffler going after his dreams. Came to Napa, was a distiller at Krug, which was making brandy. I'm sure at the
Hmm.
time everyone was making brandy. Brandy was a really big thing in San Francisco, as big as Pisco. And then, with that kind of that desire to distill and have his own brand, he created a distillery in Napa on the old Edge Hill estate. So it's a winery estate up there, Edge Hill. And eventually, so he applied for, that is, a distillery license. And so 209 is the license.
Oh,
Right?
cool. What a great way to like wrap it all up.
Mm-hmm.
I love
I
that.
sometimes I even tell people it's area code 209. Do you know where 209 is?
I don't.
That's Modesto. So hello
Oh,
to
really?
people out there.
I
Mm-hmm.
think I should have known that. My grandmother lived there for a long time.
I think the whole, like, maybe Calaveras County.
Interesting. No, I did not know that.
What's your area code? What do you got?
707.
707
Yep.
represents Sonoma. I've got a 415.
Ah, I've had a 707 number my entire cell phone owning life.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah, I've had mine since almost, oh, I'm not going to tell you how many years. 2001. I've had the same number.
Probably the first time I got my phone too.
So actually, it's funny because I was let's go ahead and start tasting.
Yeah.
We can talk and taste at the same time. We're going to be talking about botanicals.
Yes.
I've got a number of botanicals here, and that's really, Master Arnie, Master Distiller Arnie Hillsland is, I think this is one of his true talents, was finding, sourcing the best botanicals, right? So you've got to start with a great base, and that's what 209 does. It starts with a 4 times distilled spirit, corn-based spirit, and then it's brought to San Francisco and distilled at our distillery on Pier 50, which is, if you don't know San Francisco, it's kind of on the south side. But if you do know San Francisco, it's where the Cirque du Soleil tent is put up. So it's right there, right on the right on the water. It's
Yeah.
actually apparently the only distillery over water. Whatever.
That's a fun fact.
It is a fun fact about the distillery. So the distillate is brought, of course, the distillery, and then it's distilled a fifth time. And that's why it says 5D here, five
Oh,
times.
okay.
Yeah, just 5 times distilled gin.
Mm-hmm.
In our Forsyth gin, Forsyth whiskey, there we go, very pretty. Forsyth still that is called Rosie. So,
Oh,
yeah,
fun.
so the botanicals are added directly to the spirit in the still. We've got cardamom, bergamot, cassia bark. So this is what most people think of as cinnamon, and often cassia is substituted for cinnamon, and it's called cinnamon. So there is a distinction. Juniper berry, of course, is the main ingredient that you have to have to call it gin. Lemon peel, cardamom, and this is just 6 of the up to 11 botanicals, and they're a little secretive about the recipe, and that's understandable because there's some adjusting that has to be made even with botanicals, right? And you know that not every lemon tastes the same, and not every orange tastes the same. So it's proprietary, but it's also to create consistency.
Sure.
So let's taste the gin 209. Do a little smell.
That citrus definitely comes through on the nose immediately.
It's a very citrusy gin, but not overly so. I think it's one of the best balanced, in my opinion.
Very nice.
You know what I like about this gin is that it doesn't try to be too much of one thing. It's not, I feel the same about whiskeys. A lot of spirits these days, I feel like have this real distinct one flavor, one note. And you'll see, because what we're going to be tasting, people are probably already wondering, what are these brown spirits here?
Right.
This gin that's aged in barrel. So what type of barrel? Wine barrels, right? So this is made by, so 209, Gin 209, the distillery was reconstituted by Leslie Rudd, who in 1999 bought the Edge Hill Winery estate. There was an old hay barn, and he kind of removed some of the vines from the top of this structure above the door, and he said, "Oh, Distillery 209." And so that's how he dug up the history, right? And he wanted to create a distill in Napa, but they couldn't get the license, and it wasn't the right structure, and just too complicated. So they moved it down to San Francisco. So it really became one of the first gins out of the West Coast, for this new avant-garde of mixology, and that was starting to happen really a few years after that. So he was right at that crest of the wave there. Into new spirits starting to be created. I mean, of course, now everyone and their mother is making spirits or bitters or whatever, but he was really one of the first and had that real passion for winemaking and spirits. And so the reason I'm bringing that up is because he's a winemaker and a wine lover first and foremost. So that's why this is very balanced, I think. Because
the approach to it and its method and flavor complexity, is probably a little different. Like the approach to blending and whatnot is probably done a little differently than, because of his wine background and that kind of knowledge, versus someone who's solely spirits. Not that doesn't mean they don't have similar blending qualities and attributes and things like that, but I see what you're saying. It definitely has. It is not one note there. In the initial kind of taste, you kind of start with one flavor, and then it quickly evolves and moves back, across your tongue, and you definitely get all of these different flavor notes. It's very tasty.
Even on its own, even without being chilled with ice or anything, it's easy to drink. And I love the glass you're using. I think a wine glass, anything that has a focus at home, if you want to do this, anything that's glass does matter. Something like this would be maybe okay because it's narrow, but you want something you know, that has a little bit more narrow focus. It's almost like you got to think of the spirit like a flame. You know, if you were to light this, it would be like a jet, you know. And so that's all the flavors are going up the side. When you have a bowl that's too big, right? That's why the glass really matters. A lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't matter what glass, just pour it in. And I like that thought process too, is that, you know, whatever you have, just use. But if you're really trying to analyze and taste and get to understand a spirit or wine, the glass really, really matters.
Mm-hmm.
So citrus, you know, are you tasting any of the cinnamon? Obviously juniper, any of the cardamom? Are you getting any of the, I feel like the lemon is very cardamomish.
Yes. So again, it was like a pretty citrus forward nose. And then I feel like I do get, I wouldn't call it heat, but there's a warmth to it, which I am associating and attributing to that bark cinnamon friend.
Yeah, it's a little darker on the end. It's very bright, and then it turns a little dark. What I like is that it sits right in the mid palate.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the sign of a really clean, good distillate, is that it's not burning you at all in the throat.
No.
I don't notice it at all in my throat, and I'm pretty sensitive to that. So
no, I appreciate that it actually is, it doesn't pack a lot of heat.
Yep.
It's a very smooth, I am really getting that cardamom flavor. I enjoy cardamom a lot, and so it's a fun flavor that I think isn't heavily utilized, or we're not aware of what the flavor is. And I think it pairs really nicely with citrus, which is great. And then I enjoy the fact that it's...
Do you want to smell some of that?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that the juniper isn't in your face, because that can be a little too medicinal at times.
True, and that's kind of that one note. I feel like people who, that's why I'm emphasizing coming from the wine background, coming from a wine background. Leslie, Arnie, the master distiller, you know, they have this sensibility to make an arc, a really nice beginning, like you said, middle and end.
Mm-hmm.
And the beginning definitely has a little juniper and more of that lemon. You've got citrus, and like on that mid tail end, you have that, like you said, the bark a little bit, the cinnamon, and then on the finish, it's just really clean.
Mm-hmm.
I think this gin, and I'm stepping back, of course I didn't really introduce myself, but Walter Moore, I work with 209 Gin with Vintage Wine Estates. And, you know, I remember the first time I tasted 209, and it was in a huge martini.
Mm.
And it was just straight up martini at Momo's. It was like I don't know how many ounces that thing was, but
yeah,
it was before a baseball game, before the Giants game, and I don't know if you know Momo's out there.
Oh yeah, I know Momo's.
I so hope you guys survive. I mean, I can't imagine going to a baseball game and not seeing just the crowds of people on that corner.
I know.
It's an institution, right? And so I remember getting this huge martini, and I think I was working for Young's Mark at the time, so I was probably supporting the brand. But I think Arnie was there. There were a lot of people in the industry there. I just remember thinking, man, this is really, really smooth and really good.
Yeah.
Even though you're not supposed to use the word smooth, I apologize. It's very balanced, let's say, and very, really elegant. I think this would appeal to anyone who likes gin. I think if you're like a Beefeater lover or any of those Tanqueray, it's in that same palette, but I feel like it's a little cleaner, a little softer, a little bit more elegant, and a little bit more complex.
Yes,
well.
I would agree very much so with all of those statements. So
let's move on as we're talking here to the Sauvignon Blanc. So again, these brown spirits, Gin 209, what we're doing is what Arnie is doing. He's taking the same distillate, 209, and he's putting it into barrels, wine barrels. So this, as you see, is the Sauvignon Blanc.
Right.
Barrel. So this is aged 3 to 4 months. The distillate is put into barrel, 3 to 4 months. That barrel has been used previously for Sauvignon Blanc, for storing and aging Sauvignon Blanc. That Sauvignon Blanc and those barrels came from Rudd Hill, sorry, from Red Winery from Mount Veeder Estate, and they're making a Sauvignon Blanc from that property. And so it's probably a used barrel, 2 years or so, and then just a minimal 3 to 4 months in that, just to give it a little color. You see, it's not a huge amount of color.
No, it's light. Wow.
What do you think initially from that? It's hard not to think Sauvignon Blanc, and
I definitely get like a little bit of honey, and I'm assuming that's probably attributed to the barrel, you know, kind of like a very light or like I think what I'm orange blossom, like orange blossom syrup.
Very good, very nice, totally. For those who aren't familiar with kind of the three major components of Sauvignon Blanc, we've got citrus, of course, which I think definitely comes out in this. But I think there's the other two components of Sauvignon Blanc are coming out a little bit, and that's the green component. It can be everywhere from, you know, the classic Sauvignon. Do you know the classic Sauvignon Blanc term for the green?
I used to. I don't anymore.
It's cats.
Yes.
Which is a strange thing if you're outside the industry, but the grassy, sometimes asparagus on the kind of poor side of Sauvignon Blanc, and on the richer side, it's more of that. It could be bell pepper, it could be jalapeno. You know, that's the green part of Sauvignon Blanc. So you got citrus, you've got some green component, and then you've got melon as well. So I think that honey maybe is the melon component. It could be from the wood itself. A little of that vanilla should be coming in from that wood influence.
Definitely.
3 to 4 months is not a long time, but if it's a fairly new barrel, I mean, let's say 2 years, only 2 years old or used for winemaking, it's going to definitely give some of that vanilla component to it.
Yes. And the melon, now that you kind of name it, it definitely has a melon, sweet, vanilla kind of smell to it. I also get a little bit of like lemongrass. I think that to me is kind of like that green component.
Totally. So this is going to be the star on Friday. We're going to make a Martinez out of this Sauvignon Blanc, which just kicks butt. I mean, with the right vermouth, the right, you know, accent, spirit, this just really pops. And again, this is smooth right on the palate, super smooth. It's delicate. It's got a little dryness, a little bit more dryness on the finish. I feel like.
I agree. It definitely does have a bit of a drier finish, comparatively speaking. But again, it's not overly hot. It doesn't, you know, you're not like kind of like dragon's breath a little bit sometimes with some spirits. It's a really, really lovely flavor.
I would not represent this brand if it had that type of, seriously, if it was out of balance and not clean and not something I could drink on its own, because it's just beautiful. Let's move on to the Chardonnay, because it's a really nice contrast with the Sauvignon Blanc. This is how I educate people on wine, which is you need hooks to put your hat on, right? Your descriptors. And for Chardonnay, there's only one word you need to remember, and that's, there we go. Look how she's so pretty. Hi there, Chardonnay. Chardonnay is one fruit, and that's apple. Apple. So it could be green apple, it could be yellow, it could be red, it could be baked apple, it could be apple pie with all the cinnamon and the butter and the, you know, so that's how I think about, that's where I put my descriptors for Chardonnay. So let's smell it. I like to smell it next to the Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah, it's totally different. Similar, different.
Very, very appley, comparatively speaking.
Yeah, it's a little fuller on the nose. Let's see how it is on the palate. It's fatter.
the baked apple, the apple pie definitely comes through in that initial taste.
Yep. And it always takes 2 or 3 sips to get your palate acclimated, right? So a great thing to be doing on a rainy Monday morning.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. This is fuller on the palate. It goes out to the sides more. It's not
Right.
I feel like the Sauvignon Blanc kind of went through your palate pretty quickly, and this really sits.
It does.
I like the vanilla component of this. I get I think that's the apple, some of the apple pie that you're getting is that vanilla component. What kind of cocktail do you think would work with that? What's coming to your...
So in all honesty, I haven't been a big gin drinker for probably 10 or 15 years now. It was initially my beverage of choice, Tanqueray and tonics with 2 limes. It's what my mother drank. It's what my grandmother drank. And so that was my initial go-to cocktail. And then I had a not so great experience with it at a good old Tainted Love concert here at Last Day Saloon.
Wow. Tainted gin love.
And then I moved to bourbon. So that's kind of been my my place with gin the last few years. When I met my fiance, he was a really big gin drinker, and so I kind of got reintroduced to it at that time. I actually am not sure what I would drink with this. I am a big fan of adding egg whites to cocktails, and so I feel like this would be delicious. Just the kind of softness that egg whites bring to a cocktail, and this flavor, I feel like it would be a really delicious combination in some kind of, light.
Yeah, I think a gin sour would be fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds delicious.
I think that would be really nice on a day. I might have to move into that a little bit later. You know what I like to do? I'm just as simple. I'm not a mixologist. That's why I'm asking you, because, I like to drink spirits straight usually, and not even as martinis, but just I enjoy drinking them like this. So that's probably, my background making a spirit, which I like to taste it and really see how it evolves, because it will evolve in the glass. But when I do make a cocktail, I like it to be refreshing usually. I mean, if it's not going to be straight and spirituous and really, then I usually like to have something that a little fruity, like a gin and tonic is great. I love gin and tonics. And I really think people should be experimenting more with gin and tonics. It doesn't have to be gin and tonic. It could be gin and tonic and a little juice, a little fruit. Whatever you got laying around that you want to go through, might as well throw a little in there and see how it works, right?
Yeah.
So we might get into that a little bit on Friday as well.
Fine. And what's great though also is now it seems as though there are so many, not so many, but there's a variety of brands that are making different types of tonic. I mean, when I was growing up, it was like Schweppes tonic. There was one tonic.
Awesome.
And I love it still. I mean, like, I enjoy it by itself. That's how much I like it. But I love some of the other brands in the tonics that are out there being made, or tonic syrups. And then you can really like play with that flavor. There are a couple local brands here in Sonoma County that make really delicious syrups and bitters, and tonic syrup is one of them. I think that's such a fun opportunity to like just get creative, if see what happens.
Totally. I mean, I always have like some sherry, or a little bit of like you said, like a lot of local ingredients, people making things that you could just add a little bit of what is the like elderberry syrup. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Gin and tonic is a little elderberry syrup. A friend of ours makes some really good.
That would probably be delicious.
It's incredible.
Well, and a lot, depending on what is in that syrup, a lot of them have other flavor components to it, and probably some that are matching what's already in the gin profile. And so it's like a perfect combination.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So one last word on and the last word is a great cocktail, by the way, and would work really well with the Chardonnay, I think, or the Sauvignon Blanc. Gosh, I kind of want to make that too today. It's just one of those days, I think. The Chardonnay is, I think, would work really, really well. I don't know where I was going with that now. If I saw my dog running through the rain outside and got a little distracted. But yeah, I think anything. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Any kind of tequila cocktail, I think, would work well with this. I'm just thinking of the weights of different spirits,
Sure.
and this has a lighter weight. This has a slightly heavier weight. So, and I think of tequila being pretty dense.
Yeah.
This has that same kind of density, and I think flavor profile as like say a light reposado. Obviously, it doesn't have that intensity. It's a gin with kind of more delicate aromatics, but
Right.
And then I think moving on to the Cabernet, I think that's more of that whiskey substitute. Any whiskey drink that you like, you could easily put this aged gin. So I didn't tell you the barrel aging. So this is 4 to 5 months. You've got 3 to 4 months aging in Sauvignon Blanc, 4 to 5 months in Chardonnay, and the Cabernet is 5 to 6 months. Sorry, 6 to 7 months.
Okay.
Cabernet, and used Cabernet barrels. The Chardonnay was coming from Edge Hill, from their Bacigalupi, which is, I don't know if you know that vineyard at all, but we used to live right down the road from it. From
Very nice.
Yeah, on West Side Road. We love that area. And then the Cabernet is from Red Estate, Oakville. So
Okay.
they're Oakville Cab. So tell me what you think of this one. Totally different.
Totally different. Wow.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Long finish.
a very long finish. I do. It almost has like everything is very rounded in flavor. I feel like
Totally.
it's not like punchy. You're not. It almost. It's extremely. I don't want to say smooth, but like it's. Yeah, I'm having a hard time describing it, but yeah, it's just very rounded. Like every single flavor component kind of just blends and rounds. Feels very flowy.
It does. It does feel a little flowy, love it. It's like a little title in your mouth, and that's why. And it's still. I just tasted it 10 seconds, 15 seconds ago, and I'm still getting that sense of spiciness.
Yeah.
Spice is a big component of this. It's somewhat black pepper, it's a little white pepper, maybe even a little red pepper. It's that whole blended pepper. And behind that is some dense fruit, is what it tastes like to me, like a dark fruit, which is typical of Cabernet, right? Cabernet has two main flavor components, varietal characteristics is what we call it, right? So one is blackberry or black fruit, and the other is that green component. Because do you know who this is the daddy of in the grape Cabernet Sauvignon? Whose daddy is Cabernet Sauvignon?
Well, I think it was a hybrid. It was originally Cab Franc and Sauvignon Blanc. Is that right?
No, you're close. So it's Cabernet Sauvignon. Yeah, you're exactly right. Sorry, this is the son. Sorry, I was thinking, you totally had it right.
Okay.
Sauvignon Blanc is the mama, and Cabernet Franc is the daddy. I was reversing that. So this is Cabernet Sauvignon. So it is getting some of that green component from the Sauvignon Blanc. It's what most people.
I would say, on the fruit that I feel like I get kind of on that back end is like a black currant aspect to it.
Totally. Well, that's the typical varietal term that most people would use, but we don't really eat black currants here.
No, we don't.
So we just black fruit, blackberries. That's what you look for. And it definitely has that. It's almost a super dark black cherry is what I get, with a little bit of that pepper spice.
Yeah.
added to it. And to a certain degree, it's a little, I would say it's hot, but you were saying it's rounded. And I think what I was getting from that is that you feel like it's hot, but it's balanced still.
Very much so.
It doesn't burn. It's
No.
just a little hot, right? It's not a
It's
habit.
definitely a little hot, but it, you know, it fills your mouth. Like it's, you know, it doesn't just like go from the, you know, tip of the tongue to the back of the tongue, and it really fills your entire mouth, your palate. You can everything, and I feel like every aspect of like my tongue was being able to really taste that gin, and it just kind of filled in the spaces. I guess is a way to describe it.
I wanted to keep talking, and anything that you want to talk about is great, but I was going to make a quick little cocktail here.
Sure.
And what I really love about cocktails, I love making really simple. My favorite kind of cocktail is a 2-ingredient cocktail. Because like I said, I'm not a mixologist. I'm a wine guy, a wine spec, you know, and I made my own spirit, and I like to drink things straight, but I like to keep it super, super simple. So what I'm going to do today is make, it's a modified Negroni with Gin 209 and I could use Campari. I do have a little Campari over here, but Campari gets a little too, I don't know, candy-ish, sweetish for me. So I'm going to use a sweet vermouth called Partner Sweet Vermouth, and I'm not sure where I put it. Oh, there it is. Getting out of the way of the dog here. So I've got a 10-month-old puppy.
Oh my!
Oh my gosh, he's out of control.
Keeps you busy, I bet.
Very, very busy. So I'm just gonna do a 2-to-1, really easy. And you might have some partner left there. You could make one later.
Yeah, I definitely will. I have a few other activities I have to partake in after this, so I won't be quite mixing myself a beverage yet.
It's a whole day of work. What I actually noticed is I did 2-to-1, so 2 parts gin 209 to 1 part, and I meant to show you this. This is also something that Vintage Wine Estates makes. It's called Partner Sweet Vermouth. It's made from local, really high quality Napa wine, Merlot.
It's delicious.
And Petit Syrah, and then local Lodi cherries. Of course, it's fortified a little bit with local distillate. Here we go. I chilled the glass down here. That's what I'm doing right there, if you see that. Put a little ice in here and stir it around. I like it straight up. Sometimes I do like it with a little ice, but I like it just straight up today. And Campari is, of course, the classic, but I'm a little Campari'd out. I'm not sure why.
Okay.
I like it. I love Campari spritz. I love it kind of on its own with some soda water.
Yes, that is delicious.
And again, that's really how this Negroni came to be, right? The Americano, or this adjusted Americano. So I'm going to throw a little bit of bitters in. I don't want to forget my bitters. This is a friend of ours makes this. It's called Bitter Housewife.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
I've recently seen that brand.
Fruit bitters. I just, it's good for your health.
Yeah.
Now, I know most people will say this is not a Negroni because it doesn't have Campari, but
you can call it a Sonoma Negroni.
That's true. Actually, I called it the perfect partner Negroni.
Perfect. Yeah.
So,
very simple.
Go. Very simple. I'm going to simply strain. I'm going to throw this chilled, the ice and water that was chilling there. What I really like about this sweet vermouth is that it's a little atypical. It's got an intensity to it, so that's why I did the 2-to-1 really, because Negroni is usually 1-1-1, right? Gin, sweet vermouth, and then Campari. So definitely a different version is what I'm making here, and just a little bit of orange rind is great. I'm gonna get a fresh one here. There we go. And then you've got to have a little showmanship, right? So, well, that one did not give me much juice or much oil. So if anyone doesn't know this trick, it's super easy. You should all know it, but you just do that. And then what you're doing is flaming the oils like that.
Ooh, yeah.
That's easy.
Perfect.
There you go. Cheers to you.
Cheers. I'm looking forward to trying that. I love that partner vermouth. It's by far the best I've ever tried, I think.
Yeah, it's almost like the gin is just elongating the partner vermouth. And yeah, it's very good. It's very cherry. I mean, you get this almost this bourbon aspect to it.
And again, I'm sorry, you used the Cabernet gin for this one?
I did not actually. I just used the 209. But I am going to try it with each one of these, and I'll tell you later which one was the best.
I bet. Yeah, I bet they'll be just very uniquely different in all of their flavor profiles.
Fine, there's all sorts of vermouth. I mean, you can play with it. You got Dolan, you got your typical sweet. I mean, the sky's the limit, right?
Right.
What else you got to do except experiment?
Exactly. Everybody's got a little time on their hands these days.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
What do you have planned the rest of the week here?
Well, we're going to have happy hour on Friday, which I'm excited about. That's going to be lots of fun.
4 p.m. Instagram Live.
Yes, Instagram Live at 4 o'clock on Friday. And also be sending out the newsletter with that, which is going to feature the recipe. So folks can go out and buy that and mix it along with us. And otherwise, I've got a couple of nonprofit things that I'm working on with an organization that I sit on the board for. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good. But otherwise, hanging out.
What's your feeling about the reopening? You think it should happen sooner or later?
I think that there's a method to the madness, right? So I think reopening slowly is hopefully the right direction, giving everyone the opportunity to figure out how to operate kind of in this new space. Trying to figure out those growing pains before you have an influx of people trying to, come and dine with you or whatever that looks like.
The healthcare system.
It would be better to hopefully figure out what works and what doesn't work now and, work through those kinks and then, in a few weeks be able to actually successfully operate 100%. Totally.
Well, here's to hoping that we get the restaurants open as soon as we can, and whatever format that looks like. And I think, like you said, it's going to take a while for us to figure out what that really looks like and how.
It was great to see so many folks just come back, even this week with doing to go. That was really great to see, kind of a resurgence of new to go options, and I know that it's just going to be a learning curve for everyone.
Yep.
But we'll get there.
Yeah, I think like you said, I think what we've done is prepared ourselves, at least here in Sonoma, for success when it comes to treating whatever, treating the number of people, however many number that we have to deal, if there's a surge again or whatever. I think we really prepared ourselves during this sip in place time to weather that. And so I think it's been really important, even though it's been really hard for a lot of people, and we've all felt it, right?
Yeah.
In some way or another. So, well, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it. Cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
See you on Friday.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that, very much so. And thank you as always for hopping on here and,
of course,
tasting through these with me. It was a delicious Monday afternoon.
Well, thanks for inviting us, Gin 209. You can go on our website and find and use our locator to find out where you can buy Gin 209. And in general, these you know, this is a kind of a tier above the 209 price point wise, but I think they're all very reasonable when you think about the quality, and we hope that you'll try some.
Yes, most definitely. I hope people do as well. They're delicious.
All right, thank you so much.
See you soon.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.